So we're at the cusp of the spring buying season, and inventory is super low. Interest rates have gone up. And I mean, right now, I'm looking at these videos that are on social media, and it's like 70 people clamoring for one house. I mean, it's like toilet paper all over again from 2020, right? Everybody wants to buy homes. So how in the world can a buyer, submit their offer and get that accepted in this market?
I think that's a great question. There are kind of a lot of pieces involved with it. First being having a lender, getting that pre-approval, being ready to roll the moment that house comes on the market, or even as a coming soon, having a realtor that you trust with their ear to the ground of what's coming on the market, open market, as well as what we may hear within networking groups. I'm a member of a few different networking groups of other agents from an array of different brokerage offices, and we work together to kind of see what maybe will be down in the pipeline for what their clients might be selling, what they might be looking for, and kind of having that awareness and connection there has been really helpful to help find something that might not be fully out there yet, to maybe avoid having the whole game of take a number and you get a 5-minute slot to look at a house and then there's 29 people behind you in line.
Right. Yeah. And so you're going beyond just doing an MLS search.
Absolutely.
You're networking within other agents and finding out what's available in terms of inventory. What do you have coming soon? Just doing everything you can to get a leg up in helping your buyers.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of buyers, they have a ticking clock. Right? So that's a big challenge. So if you have someone where their lease is coming up or they're planning a big move, and I mean, at this point, what I'm advising my buyers is it's a numbers game. So number one, you have to treat your experience with the lender, me,
right,
like you're applying for a business loan for your own company.
Right.
You have to have all of your documentation. You have to bring all of that. You have to, and this is a service that we offer, is we actually will pre-underwrite buyers, right?
Perfect.
So we're going to take that mound of data and, income, assets, and credit, all that documentation, and I'm going to send that to my processor, but then I'm going to send that, we're going to send that through underwriting. So now we have a conditional loan approval, and conditional loan approval is typically when you would remove your loan contingency in a deal. So at that point, all we have to do is get the offer accepted and get the appraisal, right? And then resubmit final conditions. So that gets you halfway through that loan process. So is that something you're hearing a little bit more out in the field?
Yes, absolutely. I think you touched on a good point, the contingencies. That's another part of once we've got our foot in the door with an offer, I think offers that really stand out are ones that are prepared, ready to go, have already checked the boxes with the lender. I think that also those contingencies, what can you remove to have a leg up? Take away the things that you might want to buy out of the seller's home or have them convey with the property at the time of sale. Doesn't matter. That's a separate thing. Don't worry about that yet. You just want to make it real clean, real easy for the sellers to understand, and for you to be more enticing of an offer for them to accept. I think too, shortening. If you've already gotten the underwriting that piece already done, you're not waiting on that to close a deal as long as you would be in a standard transaction or a standard offer. I think kind of getting creative that way, having higher earnest money is also really helpful.
Yeah, but you still want to be realistic, right? So
exactly.
You're not suggesting to your clients to waive the inspection contingency and putting yourself in harm's way.
Totally. Yeah, our job is to represent the interests of our clients with this asset that they're trying to purchase. So I think being smart with it, in typical times, pre-craziness of this season of life with the real estate market, I think 7 to 10 days was about where we were for an inspection period, which is when we would do that due diligence of our inspector comes out, then all of the specialists would then come and look the home over following the inspector's notes. I think tightening it and shortening it up and just knocking it out as quickly as possible, like a 3-day contingency there so you can knock those out and be prepared and at least have an idea whether or not me and a client decide to go to the seller and say we want a credit. It's a little harder to get that credit nowadays for any repair costs. Right. But I think just having that knowledge of knowing what you're fully getting into when you have that much on the table already is really a helpful piece of it, and just tightening up everything you can, and tightening up the closing period, closing time. I mean, how fast can we get it closed with all the ducks in a row that we have to do with the lender if it's not all cash? So.
Right. And how do you make sure that your buyers aren't going to overpay for the property?
That's a tough one. I think being reasonable, knowing that you may be spending more than obviously list price in this market. If you really want it and you're really serious and you really need a home for your growing family, I think people, at least what I've experienced with my clients, I think they're more willing to do and act and spend what they're comfortable with, but they get to their comfortable max a little faster with that nudge of knowing they've got family growing, they've got to have a house, or they have to be out of a lease. I think there's an understanding of knowing you may pay a little more, or you may pay for a home, a full price or over full list price, and know that you might have to make some repairs on your own once it's already yours out of your pocket. So just kind of having that knowledge and being aware,
right,
I think is the best way. Yes, we do have crazy situations where people do pay way over. I've had clients who were willing to do that, and they were able to, per the lender and their banks. But I mean, of course, it's a not fun truth to tell, that sometimes you will have to pay a little more. And in this market, it's the seller's market.
It's supply and demand.
Exactly.
It's all about supply and demand.